Laboratory, Materials and Concrete Laboratory, Computing Laboratory,
we have already take a few minutes of break and we already fill our stomach. I hope that we can get back to our main focus and give our attention, full attention to the lecture that we will be saying in the topic of bamboo-based carbon for water pollutants removal, which will be presented to us by Professor Rangga Bashyam Selvasembian, and which will be moderated as we set sail on this intellectual voyage. Please give a warm round of applause to our events captain, Emma Patricia Bangun, STMN PhD. Give applause. Okay, to Miss Emma Patricia Bangun, STMN PhD, time and place is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our fourth session of today's course on bamboo for biodiversity, environment, and livelihood at Universitas Sumatera Utara. My name is Emma Patricia Bangun, and within the next 1 hour, I will act as the moderator within the last 1 hour, in the next 1 hour. So before we start, let me quickly explain that we will, as before, we will have approximately 50 minutes to listen to the presentation by our guest speaker. And then following that, we will have about approximately a 10-minute question and answer session. Our present guest speaker is Dr. Rangga Bashyam Selvasembian. He is currently working as Associate Professor in the Department of Environmental Science and Engineering, School of Engineering and Sciences, SRM, University AP, India. The topic of the presentation is, as explained before, bamboo-based carbon for water pollutant removal. Before proceeding to the presentation, please allow me to read a short biography of Dr. Selvasembian. Dr. Selvasembian received his Doctor of Philosophy degree from National Institute of Technology, Calicut, India. He was awarded a postdoctoral fellowship by Max Planck Institute for Dynamics of Complex Technical Systems 2015, Germany, and also awarded with the National Postdoctoral Fellowship from SERB-DST from 2016 to 2018, India. Dr. Selvasembian was awarded as Young Scientist by DST India for the BRICS Conclave held in Durban, 2018, South Africa, and was the recipient of Hiyoshi Young Leaf Award from Hiyoshi Ecological Services Hiyoshi Corporation, 2018, Japan. His major research interests are bioremediation and wastewater treatment. In terms of academic reputation, he is He is in the editorial board member in separation and purification reviews, scientific reports, biomass conversion, and biorefinery and environmental management. He is also serving as associate editor in International Journal of Environmental Science and Technology, IET, Nanobiotechnology, Frontiers in Environmental Chemistry, and also as an academic editor for Absorption Science and Technology. He has published more than 100 peer-reviewed international research articles and contributed several book chapters. He is editing books from prestigious publishers such as Elsevier, Wiley, CRC, and Springer. Well, notably, recently, Dr. Selvasembian was listed in the top 2% in 2021 and 2022 most cited research scientists in the world as per data published by Stanford University, USA. So I believe that the next 1 hour will be very exciting. Before So I will handle next the presentation to Dr. Sampian. Please, Dr. Sampian.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for the nice introductory by Doctor. Yeah, this session is a very challenging session. Why? Because it's after the lunch. But still, I will try to make myself a bit active. First, myself be active, and also to active participant from your end. Hope you all will cooperate. Will you do this? Will you cooperate of listening? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So my talk is on bamboo-based carbon for the removal of water pollutants. I understand the institute and also this particular conference is with respect to the bamboo. That is the core context. So I'm also a person from lignocellulose. Lignocellulose is like a plant-based residues of materials. It may be from forestry, or it may be from agricultural residues, or even it can be from the any sort of garden materials. So I understand. So bamboo is also been aligned to some sort of my research. So this is what I'm going to talk for today: bamboo-based carbon for the removal of water pollutants. So regarding the pollutants, if you check, there are a lot of pollutants are available, especially start from metals, dyes, and also in terms of the pharmaceutical pollutants. And recently, if you check the terminology called endocrine disrupting chemicals, emerging pollutants, these are the way the pollutants being highlighted. So conventionally, the metals, dyes are a major concern, but nowadays, if you check, it is called as endocrine disrupting or emerging. For example, whatever the cosmetic products, if you use the manufacturing and also the residue, whatever it is left out, it has been associated with the pollutants. So that's why it is very, very challenging. So the pollutants comes in diverse forms. Whatever we are using as sort of products, it appears as pollutants at one end. So in the direction, this particular slide, just to highlight about what about the impact of human populations, and another end is we are utilizing the resource more than our need. That is what we are using. Altogether, this sort of pollutants that end up in the water bodies, and treatment of water bodies is a very challenging issue. It's not as of simple. So it is associated with a complicated treatment process, and also in terms of duration, it should not take too much time, and also the cost factor. So the researchers all around is looking for a sustainable solutions. If you check whatever is the sort of a treatment, nowadays the terminology called circular economy and sustainability, these are getting more emphasized in such a way to use the materials with low cost and also in terms of high impact. So that's what the solution is, such a way to treat the multiple pollutants, and also to minimize the secondary pollutant generations, and also to have a very good facility for the centralized water treatment aspects. So there are a lot of treatment is available according to the pollutants of heavy metals, dyes, and organic compounds. It may be from a physical, chemical, or the biological. where the combination also available. If stand in it's a physical and sometimes chemical and biological. If I approach with any integrated form, sometimes I go with physico-chemical, there is a combination, and sometimes it with the physical and biological. So this sort of combination with goes on a number of possibilities. But the intention should be in terms of low cost absorbent and also in terms of to bring the clean water. Okay, so the terminology I'll just explain you in the later slides. Next, please. Okay, so what is absorption? It's a very simple form. For example, if you take any form of a colored solution in a one container, if you put any sort of a sponge into it, what happens? The sponge, assume that initial color of the sponge is white color, but then after I put into that particular system, because of the pollutant color, the dye color, for example, if it is a red, that sponge will become red. So what is happening here is a surface phenomena. Okay, so that's what I want to mention here. It is with respect to the surface, whatever the material we subject, that will get absorbed on the surface. So the molecule, whatever it absorbs on the surface, it's the pollutant, and the material, whatever we synthesize in the surface, that's an adsorbent, and the process is called adsorption. So since it is a summer school, I want to bring some sort of definition also. I hope it's clear with this slide. Yes? Okay, yeah, thank you. Next. Right. So, this is one theory I just given. But then in terms of adsorbent, the different materials being subjected. So in the context of the today summer course, if you check, especially the previous talk, Professor Elizabeth highlighted about the biochar in the soil amendment, and then particularly the biochar from the bamboo. But we also prepared biochar, but not from, in specific bamboo, with various other materials. So it's around the various evolution, it just been evolved, starting from charcoal, that is the very first beginning for water purification. But that is not a potential one. But then it has been transformed in the form of activated carbon. They subject a very good treatment, a thermal treatment in a controlled environment. And other form of adsorbents like zeolites, these are available in the natural. Sometimes polymers, we subject to synthetic polymers. And biosorbents, it can be from sort of microbes or even a macroalgae. And nanomaterials, the materials in terms of the nanosize distribution, and in particularly the material is synthesized and subject for water pollutants, and also metal oxides and composites in different combination. For example, if I subject the nanomaterials with some biomass or nanomaterials with polymers, altogether it is a composite. So this way the adsorbents development has happened, starting from the simple form of charcoal. What is a charcoal? It's nothing but if I set a fire of any biomass in an open atmospheric condition, whatever it is left out is a charcoal. But the performance of the material may not be interesting. Why? Because it is not being synthesized in a controlled condition. Okay, so that is how the interest from charcoal that has been evolved, and then finally it reaches into composites. So this bring out the different forms of sources you can observe in three different sections. One section is about the waste materials from agricultural industry, the top one. Most of Asia country, if you see, it's associated with a very excellent agricultural practice. Yes, so after the agricultural practice, they harvest the desired crops. But what is left out? The biomass, whatever it is left out, the management is getting tough. Other way around, they set in open air. Okay, just to clear the large biomass, and that is how it is going to cause the air pollution. So we can use those materials in a very controlled conditions to transform in terms of materials. And also the natural materials we can subject, and also the one which is from the seaweed, what you called as macroalgae or the biomass, that also can be explored as a material for the synthesis of adsorbents. So in the context of bamboo, like this is a plant biomass, of course, it falls in the category of grass. And in terms of its features, it is like endurable, versatile, Cost factor, if you check, it's low, and then it's, of course, it's highly renewable. And in terms of applications, there are a lot of applications being associated. So here, this particular bamboo that we can subject as one of the precursor for the synthesis of char. So in terms of advantages, it is with respect to the high economic value, and mass production is quite possible, because bringing out the sustainability is very, very important. The biomass, whatever we subject, it should be available in a large volume and then available in all season. So considering that, the production is quite possible and quite comparable to any other trees. The lifespan is very interesting, and also in terms of harvesting, everything is quite feasible, especially in terms of sustainability aspects. And also the regenerations, if you check, without needing to the reimplantations, it can be picked early and then it can be transformed further. And further in terms of oxygen productions, and also carbon eliminations, it's all very interesting aspects in the features of the Is my voice audible? Without mic? Yeah. Okay, fine, it's fine. So the amount of carbon stored in the soil, for example, in thousands of years, that can be increased, especially with respect to the. It's not audible. It's not. Okay, so using the bamboo biochar. Bamboo biochar, it is a very interesting aspect. Why? Because if we subject this biochar in terms of in the soil, that is going to bring out very good soil conditions. It's going to bring out the conditions, and also the substitution of the commercial fertilizer can be decreased. It cannot be completely substituted. That's a very challenging aspect. So this is what with respect to the advantages of using bamboo. Yeah. In my previous context, I have mentioned lignocellulose, that stands for lignin, cellulose and hemicellulose. If you take any biomass, this is how the distribution is. But then in this case of bamboo, the cellulose content distribution is around like 45 to 52%, and lignin is around 22 to 30%, and pentose in terms of 17 to 25%. This is the constituent of a typical bamboo composition. But if you check the sugarcane bagasse, or if it is from rice husk or any other agro residue, typically it is associated with such combination. That's for sure. That is how altogether these all comes in the category of lignocellulosic residues: lignin, cellulose and hemicellulose. Here, interestingly, if you check, such distributions are quite good enough. Even cellulose, lignin, and also pentosone. Pentosone. Now, all such contributions of the lignin, cellulose, and pentosone have its own significance towards the biochar productions, or it may be for biofuel productions. So that is what the different application is quite possible. So, and also this being distributed with the function group. If you check the chemistry behind this cellulose or lignin or pentosone, it has a wide range of functional groups. All such functional groups brings out its importance in biochar and also pollutant removal. Okay. Okay, you can quickly then. Okay, so if you check the previous slide, it is just about the composition of the lignin, cellulose, and hemicellulose. That is one article what we have published. In that we just highlighted about how about the lignin, cellulose, and hemicellulose distribution. But that particular slide is trouble. I don't know why. That's fine. So next is about the advantages of using bamboo in particular. So the two contexts as I want to emphasize here, one is in terms of biochar and another one is in terms of the activated charcoal. If, as I mentioned, the evolution, if you check around, it is first is with respect to the charcoal, and then the followed with that of the activated carbon, and then the biochar. There's two similarities you can observe. One is with respect to the activated carbon. The very first, if you subject some thermal treatment, as a resultant, you get some sort of honeycomb structures. It's a very common practice you might have seen in your day-to-day life, the water filter system, they use some cartridge. So inside the cartridge, they have some sort of blocks of the packing materials. That is what they call as an activated carbon. But nowadays, the more interest is towards subjecting a high-end technology called pyrolysis. With that pyrolysis, whatever the resultant biomass is what you called as biochar. So by pyrolysis, that is how you get this activated carbon in different applications, but we talk more on this water purification. Solar cell also there, that is also quite possible. These are the other areas. And then if you check in terms of biochar, it's very important is with respect to the soil amendment and pollutant removals, and also increase the soil fertility. That is what I mentioned. Such carbon materials that can be blended along with the soil, and we can see how it is increasing the soil characteristics, how it is increasing the soil microflora and also the biochar together interaction. Altogether should be a positive effect on the agricultural practice. Now, in terms of difference, if I burn any wood in an open atmospheric condition, that is what we call as a charcoal. If I burn the same wood or the biomass, for example, a bamboo or whatever the source of material in a controlled condition, the resultant what I called as biochar. But then what makes the difference? It's especially with respect to the oxygen supply condition. In the charcoal, for example, if you burn any biomass, it's in the open atmospheric condition. So in that case, the resultant is a charcoal. But then in the reduction of oxygen, this is an oxygen limited environment. So without oxygen, whatever the resultant form, okay, what you obtain is the biochar. So if you check the particular resultant compound, it's what you call as a thermochemical reduction. Why? Because it is not only the thermal, what happens with respect to the charcoal, but in case of biochar, whatever the thermal resultant char, you can subject with even chemical in such a way to bring out its more physicochemical characteristics. So that's what the distinct difference you can observe. Next in the charcoal, yeah, this is with the very conventional and well reported one in terms of as electromagnetic wave absorber, or in terms of solar cell as electrodes, and for the water purifications. And also these are very conventional reported charcoal yield, what is with respect to the different bamboos, and also in terms of the percentage of yield. You can observe, like for example, the yield is more about, for example, if I take 1 kilogram of bamboo and I subject it for a charcoal preparation, the resultant charcoal that's divided by its initial weight. So with that we calculate the yield of the charcoal. And this yield also, it depends on the distributions of lignin, cellulose, hemicellulose. The more the lignin, there is some correlation with respect to the high yield of charcoal. Next, the terminology of biochar, if you check, this comes like different forms of applications, and we are limiting only in terms of water pollutants. Yeah, this is one with respect to the yield of bamboo. Yield of biochar based from bamboo, like a different forms they have took, and the maximum is around the 80%. Yes. Now, how about the process in such a way I want to convert the bamboo into activated carbon? So this is not going to be the unique form of preparation steps, rather the steps is already available for any sort of lignocellulose. But then this is with respect to the Wang et al. Of 2015. So he collected the bamboo waste, subjected for carbonization, and then after that there will be some sort of ashes, residues, all will be available. That is subjected to washing and drying, and then it can be subjected to activation. As I mentioned, after the thermal treatment, we can subject it for activation by using any chemical, and then further again washing, drying to remove all the excess chemicals. So what you obtained is the activated carbon. So here these are the process that involves in the conversion. So you can observe the right side where you have the nitrogen supply of the preparation for the carbon. Why? Because this particular treatment of biochar production that should happen in the absence of oxygen. So to bring that particular conditions, we are supplying the nitrogen. So all in the presence of nitrogen and you are subjecting the biomass, you will get the char. Like first you subject the bamboo and then you have the bamboo carbon, and further that is, so the temperature, if you check the right side, temperature operation is around 1000 degrees Celsius. But what in case of the biochar, this is for biochar, but in case of activated carbon, there also thermal treatment. If you set a fire of biomass or wood log, it is also what you call as carbon or a charcoal. But there is no such controlled condition of oxygen deficit, because in the open ground of just burning, it is just the resultant of combustion where you get a charcoal where oxygen is present. By that, the carbon material is not potential. But in case in the pyrolysis, you have the night. In that case, the oxygen is most present. So with all conditions, you subject the bamboo under the pyrolysis of a high temperature on 100,000 degrees Celsius, and the resultant carbon, and you subject some sort of compression aspects, and you powder it, and then you subject it for activation, the KOH, potassium hydroxide. That is one chemical agent that is subject to activation, that brings a very good surface area, and then it can be available in the form of material. The material, if you check the right side, observe a very good channel distributions with the occurrence of microporous, mesoporous, and the macropore volume. So all such structures that provides a good accessibility to the pollutant and also for adhering things. So here, if you check the bamboo charcoal in terms of absorption rates, it has been higher, and also mineral content also increased more. And the cavities and distributions of microporous, mesoporous, all this favors the material. And also the surface area. The surface area is one of the important attributes to any sort of material. More the surface area, for example, if you check any water filter system, they used to report with 1000 meters square per gram. So that's how the particular surface area is. So if I subject a bamboo, or if I subject any sort of lignocellulose biomass, I have to bring, or I have to exhibit the set of conditions and activation procedure in such a way to attain such a high surface area. So surface area is a very crucial parameter to get the desired features of a particular absorbent material. So here you can, so like how about the material preparations is bamboo. It includes the different steps like slicing, or you can subject it to char and milled carbon, and you can mesh it, and then finally you can have like an activated carbon. But then if you get, especially in terms of pyrolysis conditions, you can have like a biochar, and if you subject any of the chemical treatment, then it's called as an activated biochar. Okay, so you have the raw green bamboo, you are subjecting for the pyrolysis. So what is pyrolysis? Means like here you subject, in the previous one I shown like a horizontal surface. This is like a column setup. It comes in different reactor design and configurations. Now recently we are working with respect to a batch system of tubular type. That is one recently we are fabricating. So this is one sort of a column type where you subject to your pre-treated, where you subject pyrolysis, and there it tends to occur a very high temperature on like 1000, and in that case whatever the material then the gases, if you check the gases, it is what you call as a syn gases or pyrolytic gas, and then the oil, that is what you call as a pyrolytic oil. So such a distribution will happen, but our interest is more towards the biochar. Now with respect to the pollutants removal, there are different pollutants removal is there, like as I mentioned, like metal ions, dyes, and pharmaceuticals. In terms of number of publication, the interest is growing. Why? Because there is a lot of water related problems emerging. Previously, if you check, it is mostly with respect to metals and water. That's what you can observe. The year of publications and the number of publications, the X and Y axis. The combination of the terminology like adsorption, metal ions with water, it's in the Scopus search. If you check, it is that it stands as, higher. But then the next level is dyes. That is the next level. And now if you check pharmaceutical water, that is also getting the major concern. It is one of the organic pollutants. So pharmaceutical, it is not only from the manufacturing sector, also from the domestic sectors, like after usage of our desired dose, all these things, it has not been utilized the full dose or whatever after the cure, they are just putting in the domestic waste and then municipal solid waste, and it is reaching the groundwater level. So these are the major concerns. So accordingly, the interest wise, if you check, apart from the metal, apart from the dyes, the more research focus is now narrowed towards even pharmaceuticals. Yeah. Now the pollutant wise, if you check, it is going to be transport. The pollutant tends to transport in terms of washing, migrations, all this thing. There are a lot of aspects. It may be from the smoke, or it may be from the chimney from the industry, or it may be from the sludge. That is how it is. But you see, if there is a cadmium emissions, or if it is a mercury emissions from a coal mining industry, but it is going to deposit in the land surface. But then from the land surface, because of the rainwater, all these things, it is going to reach the nearby ponds or the lakes or any water bodies. Again, that particular metal solutions tends to accumulate in the biomass. So altogether, if you check, the source contribution is somewhere and the pollutant is migrating and reaching in the somewhere. So, but then it is going to be, served in our dining table, metal contaminated fish menu, maybe in the restaurant or in a day-to-day life. It's a very, very challenging and is a major concern. So now these are some sort of reports from different works. In terms of metals, if you check, the bamboo-based activated carbon, they are reported by the Akinbail in 2022 towards the removal of different metals like chromium, copper, iron, cadmium, lead, zinc, and nickel. So the removal efficiencies are reported in the range of 71 to 100%, and also they have reported in towards the acidity, nitrate, sulfate with the removal efficiency of 62%, 58%, and 57% removal efficiency respectively. So in this case, they have subjected the bamboo-based materials and metals. Now, in terms of dyes, the dye pollution is quite very transparent. In most of the cases, in some metal pollution also happen, but sometimes the metal pollutions, even we cannot tell if the color of the water is of course colorless. It is a usual characteristics, but then we cannot tell it's a pollutant free until otherwise we have a complete examinations of the physico-chemical characteristics. So in the directions, if you check the dyes, the synthetic dyes is quite associated our day-to-day practice, starting from textiles, fabrics, and every form of materials we have used. So the manufacturing sectors facing a challenge of the huge volume of generation of tons and tons of dyes contaminated wastewater. But then of course it should be with the proper effluent treatment system. But if it is not way around, it should not be mingled to the nearby water bodies. So that is one of the major concerns. So Jiangzhongguo, so in 2014 they reported of subjecting the bamboo-based material, especially with respect to the methylene blue, whatever the methylene blue related that comes in methylene blue or malacca green. There is different colors of dyes is available. So they are reported with a very high capacity of 606 milligram per gram, and there is some conditions also there. So the capacity is different, but the capacity is very interesting, around like 606 milligram per gram, and then efficiency wise, if you check, it is around 70%. Yeah. So the previous two slide, it is more on the metals and dyes, and this third one, if you check, it is on the pharmaceuticals. The pharmaceuticals, it will arise from the manufacturing sectors. Okay, but then if they are associated with the proper treatment, that is fine. But then other way around, if they discharged into the bodies, that's why the pollution problem happens. So the pharmaceuticals, food, and then the environmental pollutions, altogether it has been ingested. Okay, so we need to have the analysis like what about the wastewater treatment plant. Okay, if the wastewater treatment plant, they have a distinct roles on treating such a pharmaceutical, that's fine, or otherwise it is going to have a burden again in the environment. So one example in the literature is reported with the ciprofloxacin. So the material, whatever they subjected here, of course it is from the bamboo, and they reported with the pore volume distribution of 1.23 centimeter cube per gram, and also the capacity wise it is around 613 milligram per gram. So removal efficiency is 96%. So what I want to emphasize in all these three case studies sort of a report, one is with respect to metal dyes and pharmaceuticals. The bamboo based literature, they just emphasize a very good performance removal. What we understand in terms of the materials, especially for different constructions, or in terms of material fabrications, or in terms of lamination, all these aesthetic properties associated with bamboo, that's all very interesting directions. At the same directions, it is also having a very good features as a good potential materials towards a pollutant removal. So mechanism wise, whatever the dyes, metals, also things, it happens like this. The first one is going to be the boundary layer, and then particulate diffusions, and then the interaction between the pollutant and the sorbent. Sorbent is nothing but the material, whatever it is, going to remove it. There are different mechanisms that is associated, like electrostatic attractions, ion exchange, complexations, precipitation. These are all the chemistry aspect, like how it works. If the pollutant is getting on a surface, but then how it happens, how it is removed. So these are all the mechanism aspect. Okay, so now if you check, this is another perspective of sorption. If I'm not using any sort of carbon, if I use only the biomass, for example, the morning it is raised, like especially the bamboo leaf, if it is planted in the pedestrian region, it is going to have an impact, especially in the management of collecting all those things. But that can be collected, made a powder, and we can think of utilizing as this biomass based solvent. That's what biosorption. Next. So characterization is like understanding the mechanism through different instruments. These are the high-end instruments that is subjected to know like how this particular mechanism works, like AAS, atomic absorption spectroscopy, ICP-OES, like inductive coupled plasma systems, SEM, just to understand this surface morphology, NMR, FTR and all, like Fourier transform infrared. So it brings out the functional group analysis. Likewise, XPR, XAS, and XRD. These are all the different characterization approaches with that we can bring out like at what mechanism the pollutant is removed, or what is the characteristics of the material what is synthesized. This is with respect to the sorption design. So in a one particular fixed system, we will use the process, and here the solvent is nothing but the pollutant solution. It is taken in terms of ml or liter, and the solute is nothing but the pollutant that should be removed. Is C0 is the initial concentration, V is the volume of the working solutions, and the M is nothing but the amount of sorbent. For example, if I take 1 gram of biochar of bamboo, how it works. And likewise, after a certain period of contact time, that will tends to milligram of solute per gram of adsorbent. Likewise, the concentration, initially the concentration of the pollutant may be very high. Okay, after the treatment, the concentration of the pollutant is going to decrease. Likewise, the adsorbent mass, initially it will be less. For example, if I use 1 gram, but then after the process, the gram of adsorbent will increase. Why? Because the pollutant will adsorb on the surface. So this is more on, it is about the working volume, initial concentration of the pollutant, and also the gram of the adsorbents. It is like quantity of the adsorbent. Next. So these are the different comparisons with respect to the native forms and also the modified forms. It comes like just without activation or with activation. Means as such the material we can use as a sorbent. Just a dried form of leaves, and then subject it for just to remove the moisture and put in an airtight container and understand like how it works for the pollutant removals. But then we do in terms of the column B, that is a modified forms in terms of chemical activations or physical activation or some sort of thermal So that is a modified form. So interestingly, the performance is going to vary. Yeah. Now, until now, if you check, it is mostly on sorbent, pollutants. But what is happening after that? For example, if I take an adsorbent, the pollutant is added. For example, in the pond, if it is there, okay, we have some filtration system. So from that entire pond, whatever it is there, I'm just allowing through the filtration system. So all that pollutants is now come to the column, right? It's not in a bulk volume of solution. What I do with that, especially in the pollutant loaded materials, that is what you called as post-sorbent. This is the emerging area of research that we are also focusing. Post-sorbent research is very interesting. For example, eutrophication. Have you heard of this word, eutrophication? Eutrophication. If you take any pond or something, there is a floating structures will be available, like hydrophytes, iconia. There are certain floating structures. Especially whenever there is a pond, the pond should be clean. But especially if it is associated with the domestic sectors, whatever there is a sewage, they used to transfer to the water bodies. It is a simple work, whether they are helping the municipality. So that should not happen. So whatever this water from this particular domestic sectors, if it is mingled with the pond, that will cause the increase of nitrogen phosphorus content in the water system. This increased nitrogen phosphorus content that tends to bring out more growth of microalgae and also some hydrophytes. That is what we called as Iconia pistia. These are some floating plants will be available. So this entire process is called eutrophication. What happens is the surface of the plant will just occupy the complete surface. So whatever the fish, whatever the aquatic system present, it may not expose to the sunlight, and the oxygen also get reduced. It will completely damage the ecosystem. Why? Because the excess phosphate, whatever it is present, or nutrients present in the domestic sewage, okay, that brings out such sort of eutrophication problem. Likewise, here the post-sorbent, why I want to compare is, even we can subject the phosphate removal from the water streams, especially from the domestic water streams. If we subject such pollutants of phosphate removal, if it is, imagine the phosphate is been anchored on the surface of the biochar or the adsorbent, now phosphate is quite required for the plant growth, right? So this particular sorbent with the phosphate, after the removal of pollutants, we can transform into the agricultural field, and that is going to release those phosphate in a controlled manner. So now we cannot substitute completely in the place of fertilizer or manure, but this is going to be an additive features. Okay, so that's how we can think of how we can use in soil amendment and reuse properties, and it should not be disposed as such, of course. And regeneration, recovery directions also we can think of. Yeah. Now previously the present aspect is like a disposal problem and also the material loss, toxicity, all these are the issues. But nowadays the post-sorbent material, if you check whether it is possible to use as a fertilizers or we can prepare some other materials, you should be very careful because it is also with the toxicity issues, so that we should be very careful. Prepare some sort of catalyst or any physical for the G sector. Next. Yeah, this illustrates the one in my previous slide. You see the sorbent after removing of pollutants like nitrogen, copper, or if it may be phosphorus, through the adsorption, we have the post-sorbent. Okay, now, of course, copper at a permissible level is very, very important. It cannot be higher concentration. It will obviously causes metal toxicity, phosphate, and also the nitrogen. Now, this matrix loaded post-sorbent material, if I put in soil, that's what you call it as a soil amendment, that is going to be used by the plant system. Okay, so that is going to be again utilized as sort of mineral. So now we are addressing the two challenges, one in terms of post-sorbent material management and then soil amendment. So this is one sort of an approach. And particularly the material, if you check, the occurrence of microporous, mesopore, and then macropore, all these are very unique feature by that the pollutant will be available on these channels. For example, nitrogen, phosphate, all these things. If you put in the soil, over a period of time, it is to release slowly. Means it will be available for the plant system for a good number of period. It cannot be, for example, if it is a fertilizer, it's within a short period of time. So this is going to be the controlled release that is going to act as a very good soil amendment practice. Yeah, this is something a magnified mechanisms to improve the soil fertility. So such sort of features, it is going to bring out physicochemical characteristics of the soil and also the improved release of the nutrient facility and the immobilization. Immobilization is just a trap of those pollutants in the solid matrix. So all such features provides a good platform for the interactions of the essential microflora, because all these interactions, it is going to fix, the nitrogen is fixed by the bacteria. So this been enhanced by the microflora, the occurrence of such biochar amended soil. These are the biomasses, like what I talked from literature, it is about the bamboo based. All this sort of biomass, it is a rich content of lignin, cellulose, hemicellulose that is explored from our research, where we subject all these materials in the native form and also we prepare the activated carbon and we subject towards the pollutant removal. Not only these sort of lignocellulose, in the right side if you check, it is the macroalgae, because the marine diversity, it is distributed with a lot of macro system. That also be subject for our materials. Yeah, these are some interesting results what we are observed, and as you can see the occurrence of honeycomb structure. If you check the honeycomb, you can see a very narrowed structures and all. Okay, the similar way here also it is reported. Likewise, we take the macroalgae and we prepare the beads out of it. The beads, one is the natural polymers like sodium alginate beads, and another one is the polysulfone, the synthetic beads. So based on that, we prepare these materials and then we put in a column and we allow the pollutants to pass through and further removal. Yeah, here you can observe the same, especially. This is one journal is from Elsevier. So you can observe from the surface, from the top to the down, you can check the occurrence of very good narrow structures. We didn't done any activation. We just explored how the natural material it is from this MMH, where you can observe the distributions of nanometer size ranged porous distributions or furrow structures. Such structures provided a very good removal capacity towards the chromium. It's a highly toxic top dominant pollutants. So in the column also we can check at the bottom the chromium solution is yellow colored, but at the top it is completely colorless. Okay, so this is how you can observe this particular material has a very good removal efficiency in its native form. Yeah, next. So this is again the column system. Next. Right, altogether this is the complete system I want to elaborate. So whatever the material we prepare, that should be properly characterized and then it should be subjected in the treatment of a suitable reactor design, and that particular system should be of cost effective and it should be able to have very good absorption capacity, and also it should be desorb, means it should remove the pollutants and the materials. Durability means it should have very good recycling properties up to good number of cycles, like 10 to 15 cycles. If all these features, it is successful up to the industrializations. Yeah, thank you. Next. Yeah. So this is my email ID and contacts, you can observe. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Selva Sembion, for very interesting, very insightful. I personally have learned that biomass can be generated from many various sources, including also bamboo. and it can be used to remove pollutants, dye pollutants, as you said, metal pollutants, and also pharmaceutical pollutants. So it was very insightful. Thank you very much. Perhaps we would give the audience a chance to ask our questions and comments to our guest speaker. Perhaps, audience? Okay, please.
Thank you. Firstly, I would like to appreciate of your presentation. It's very insightful. However, I have questions that intrigue my curiosity. You said that bamboo has a better characteristic to be made as an activated carbon, like 3 times more absorption rate than compared to wood-based activated carbon. How can that happen? Because from what I saw from your presentation, the process of which the activated carbon from bamboo is made is similar to a common activated carbon production process. What made the bamboo has better characteristic as an activated carbon? And for the second question that I want to know, when you talk about the fixed bed reactor and the absorber material, compared to the other activated carbon material, how is the sustainability and the duration usage of this activated carbon compared to other absorbent materials, and in terms of the cost effectiveness? I think that's the question. Thank you.
So first question is about specifically the bamboo-based biochar in terms of its performance. Okay. Now, if you check the lignocellulose, that's what the terminology I have used. The lignocellulose, it is like lignin, cellulose, and hemicellulose. Any sort of biomass, it is having the distribution of the cellulose content and lignin content and hemicellulose content. But there is a correlation, especially if the lignin content is good in the range of like 25 to 35 or like above 30, it is going to have an impact on biochar. So such sort of data is quite supportive, especially in the bamboo based, for such higher performance, especially for the activated carbon. Okay, so that is for the first question. And for the second question, it is with respect to the sustainability use in the context of the reactor, especially in the continuous reactor system. So in the continuous reactor system, it works in the parameter analysis, like the bed height. There are certain configurations that we need to consider, like how much material we use. Okay, that will determine, and the concentration of the initial pollutant. If it is going to be the low, but then the performance is going to be high. So the initial concentration of the pollutant works, and the flow rate of the pollutant. If the flow rate is very high, the pollutant goes, interact less time and comes out. So we need to optimize the set of operating condition of the dynamic sorption system. So based on that, we can bring more on the sustainability and its application practice.
Thank you very much for the response, Dr. Selvian. Maybe anyone who would like to give comments about terminologies? Yes, please.
Should I introduce myself?
Sure, of course,
okay.
Yes.
Please.
My name is Yogi. I'm a civil engineer student. I just want to know whether this process still can be worked into the DDT. Is like on the farming.
Diethylene?
Huh?
DDT?
Yeah, DDT.
Uh-huh.
It's
dichlorodiethylene polypropylene.
Yeah, that one they use in the farming. Does it still work to that kind of pollution? That's the first one. And the second one is, what is you think the best way to get it to put in use of this stuff or on the big reservoir like a lake or a big channel? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Interesting two questions. The first question, if you check, like as I mentioned, the pollutants like metals, dyes, and pharmaceuticals, but that's not limited. it of course been extended to any pesticides, any fertilizer, any emerging contaminants or endocrine. In that case, DDT is quite acceptable, and research also already reported. So it is there. It's in the practice, or also in terms of pollutant removal, it is already been examined and reviewed. Okay, so that is for the first one. And for the second one, if you are telling if there is a reservoir, if it is completely polluted, so whether we can use this technology. Imagine the reservoir is going to occupy the tons and tons of the wastewater volume. Okay, but then if I want to put all the materials, it is going to be the sludge. It is going to be the problem of the huge generation of the sludge. So there should be some sort of a civil engineering aspect where this sort of reservoir, the water channels, that should be streamlined to particular column system where this particular water has to be passed through the wastewater and then it should be treated. But imagine if it is going to be a huge reservoir, it needs some preliminary treatment also, because this comes in the approach of advanced treatment system. But before that, it needs some preliminary treatment system. So with those preliminary treatment system, this advanced treatment system can attain its final performance. You got the answer? Yeah, thank you.
Yes, perhaps from Faculty of Forestry. Okay, I myself have a question.
Please.
First of all, you said that this biomass is preferable because it is necessary to consider that there won't be too much time to consume in order to process that. I want to know how much time is considered to be efficient in order to reduce the pollutant, and how do we determine the amount of mass of biomass that is required, for example, to reduce the pollutant of the polluted water of a certain meter of surface area. And perhaps the third question is about the oil spill due to a tank. Has it been considered for the biomass or even bamboo-based biomass to be considered to remove or reduce oil spill? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So first one is with respect to the biomass, the time taken for the processing. There is a terminology called a breakthrough. Breakthrough means like in the figure you might have seen, where it represents like how a pollutant concentration is going to vary over a period of time. Okay, so the yearly breakthrough that represents the material is saturated. If you pack in a column, if I'm passing through the pollutant, okay, so until the particular space is available to accommodate the pollutant, the exit will be completely colorless. So in that case, still it is accommodating the pollutant. So it purely depends on the particular type of the materials, and also in terms of other conditions like pH, temperature, all those process parameters. So that is how it goes. That is why we optimize all those process parameter conditions. So that is for the first question. And for the second one, you are talking about, you're asking about the oil spill. Okay, so oil spill, yes, it is reported, like for example, but I have done with the dominance and with respect to the metals and dyes. But for oil spill, whatever the procedure we apply, that we can use it. We can just subject any sort of oil. For example, it can be from any sort organic related. Okay, that the same we can subject in the synthetic solutions, and that we can subject for the removal aspects. Okay, so obviously yes, it is quite possible.
But it hasn't been implemented in the world.
Like sorbing material, the sorbing material, it is already in practice. That's what I mean.
Yes.
Okay, research wise, they are reporting with various set of materials and oil combinations.
Yes.
But if you use, for example, if it is in the mid of ocean, if there is a tank break happens, they used to distribute with a confined space all the floating structures. Obviously, it has the surface property to absorb. That is also absorbance.
Okay. Anyone want to give comments or questions? Or Dr. Rami, do you have questions? Okay. So perhaps one last or two last questions from me.
Yeah.
As far as to my understanding, this is still an ongoing research. So has it been considered to be implemented for domestic purpose? or it has so far been implemented for industrial purposes?
Yeah, industrial purposes, all this material like lignite, coal, peat, based on that the materials are there, and then the people they prepare this activated carbon. But then the looking and the hunting for the sustainable material, it still carries on. So for the industry, they subject the biomass which is good enough and meeting the characteristics of the activated carbon with all this physical chemical characteristic, they are transforming. Otherwise around it just goes to the reporting and practicing in pilot scale, and that particular data will be utilized in the industrial sectors. So that is a continuous process with the different materials and different performance. It's still going on.
Okay, so one last chance for the audience. Any comments or questions to our guest speaker? Any perhaps terminology? It doesn't have to be complicated questions, but you can ask simple like terminologies that you
it
do
can
understand.
be even a basic question.
Basic questions.
You can ask
yes.
me why you want to do this.
Yes. Or you can even ask what inspired you. What has inspired you to do this research topic, right? Well, yeah.
Oh, this is a question.
Yeah, it's a question. What has inspired you to do this research? So apart from perhaps part of your past PhD research.
Yeah. I'm from bachelor's and master's of biotechnology, but then I was ended in the department of chemical engineering. But I want to use the eco-friendly material because otherwise the chemical engineering is mostly on unit operation, process, all sort of things. So I'm from biotechnology background, so I want to valorize the bio-related materials. So, but then in the chemical engineering, there are certain mathematical models and also in terms of solving some equations to bring out the performance that is in the chemical engineering. So this is with respect to the background, but the water pollution is quite challenging, especially in the underdeveloping and the developing countries. So this is the major concern, of course.
So far, the studies have been undertaken through physical modeling. So no numerical modeling.
Like
approach?
experimental. We do conduct laboratory studies. We collect the data and we subject some theoretical models, and we validate with the theoretical model with some sort of modeling analysis.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So if one last chance, one last opportunity, perhaps from Dr. Self-Assembly students themselves, would you like to give comments or questions to our speaker, please? Thank you.
So my question is, so told about the chemical composition of bamboo. In that, there is a particular percentage for cellulose, lignin, and this one. So, what if the percentage changes? How it will affect the biochar runoff?
Yeah, the biochar, as I mentioned, it is mostly with respect to the lignin content. By that, the yield will vary, and also its distribution in terms of its structure or functional groups is obviously. So whatever it is present, brings out the standard structure that should be quite comparable to the commercial activated carbon.
Would you like to add some more? No. Okay. So then, if there are no more questions, then hand over the session to our MC, please.
Thank you. First, I would like to give some applause to Professor Rangga Basyan Self-Assembly for the insightful, knowledgeful, invaluable knowledge that has been given to us, which was a new information that not only can be bamboo converted to exchange wood products, but it can also be used to absorb toxic and mineral material in the water. It is a valuable insight, ideas that we as a student can evolve and develop it in the future. So in the next agenda, as our express gratitude that we will give ULOS to you, sir, which will be given by Ms. Emma Patricia, STM PhD. Oh yeah, this is the song of Batak culture. It's suited to the ULOS. Okay. Okay, let's give an applause. Thank you to Professor once again to Professor Rangga Bashir Selva Sembian for the presentations. And the next agenda. So once again, we will watch the profile video of the engineering faculty of University of Sumatera Utara while we wait to the next agenda that we will hold about making bamboo a mainstream structural material by Dr. David Trujillo Siang. While waiting, let's watch some videos. Enjoy.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In this era of information technology, it is important for such institutions like Faculty of Engineering to have such a video profile like this. Through this video, we would like to introduce all of our 7 departments, 20 study programs, and also all faculty members that exist in the faculty. Our aim with this video is to enhance the collaborations and cooperation with all stakeholders, including the government, industry, community, as well as the alumni, to enhance the internationalization programs that we should have for this period. We hope that you can find this video amusing, informative, and interesting, and help you to know better about Faculty of Engineering, University of Sumatera Utara.
The Faculty of Engineering Universitas Sumatera Utara was established on September 1st, 1959. There are 7 departments. There are Department of Civil Engineering, Mechanical Engineering, Electrical Engineering, Industrial Engineering, Chemical Engineering, Architecture, and Environmental Engineering. The Faculty of Engineering is the winner of the Green Campus competition in 2002. Civil engineering has 4 subdisciplines, which are geotechnical transport engineering, structural engineering, water resources engineering, construction management and engineering. Mechanical engineering has 4 subdisciplines, which are energy consumption engineering, manufacturing engineering, mechanical engineering design and construction, maintenance engineering. Electrical engineering has 3 subdisciplines consisting of electrical energy engineering, telecommunications engineering, and computer engineering. Industrial engineering has 3 subdisciplines, which are manufacturing system engineering, human factor engineering, and management sciences. Chemical engineering has 5 subdisciplines, which are renewable energy, material biomass process, membrane technology, and remediation. Architecture has 6 subdisciplines, which are cities and settlements, architectural design, building technology, history, theory, and critical architecture, built environment, architectural computation. Environmental engineering has 5 subdisciplines, which are clean water, wastewater, solid waste, air pollution, and environmental management. The Professional Engineering Education Study Program was established on February 10, 2017. This program has currently produced 185 graduates. It has 2 programs which are based on fast learning recognition and regular class program. The lecturers of Faculty of Engineering actively support the 3 Dharma University by having patents for their creations. Engineering students support their academic achievements by winning national and international competitions. Faculty of Engineering make collaborations with academics, business, and government in education, research, and community service.
USU, transformation towards the ultimate.
Okay. Firstly, in this occasion, I would like to say hi and give my greetings to all of my friends in the video conference, Zoom video conference. Hello, guys. May health be with you all. I hope you all will be intrigued and will be insightful and has a same amount of spirit as we are here attending this event offline. We will be shortly will be hearing about our lecture. So I hope you guys have your note ready, have your spirit ready, and have your focus ready so that you guys can absorb the knowledge that will be given to you in the moment. And I would like, yes, if because I remember from the moment that we start this event, I forgot to not once, I have mentioned my name and introduced myself to you all. So I would like to do it now. My name is Muhammad Afliriansyah, and I am a student, a final year student at Department of Chemical Engineering, University of Sumatera Utara. Okay, I would like to confirm. Okay, I would like to give an information to all of you guys here and all of my friends in also in the Zoom video conference that in this occasion on this day we have our abroad friends, our international friends. Hello, guys. I would like to say hi to you, and if I may ask you, would you like to give us all about the insight of this international summer course of, or you can tell us about your experience for one day already in Indonesia, in Medan. What do you feel? What are your thoughts about Indonesia and Medan, especially, if I may ask you guys, who wants? Anyone help me, guys? Yeah, you should help me now. It's getting awkward. Anyone? Just a broad experience. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, hello. So I am Jasneet and I am come from India. I study in the Department of Environmental Science with Sustainable Development. That is my course and I am doing MSc in that. I've come from India. I just said I think so. Uh, yeah. So my experience till now in Indonesia has been really great. The weather is really nice. It is similar to India. The food I have really enjoyed it. That too is similar to India, but it is like uh, not so spicy. We eat even more spicier food in India, and so yeah, that is it.
Hi guys, my name is Athena. I'm coming from India, studying MSc Environment Science in SRM University. So my kind of interest when I reached here, it was so nice, really peaceful, beautiful place, and the food was also it tastes different, but it's like to taste it. Then from the conference, yeah, I got many ideas about the bamboo for the biodiversity, and it makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, my name is Azwan Khalid. I'm from University Technology Mara in Malaysia. So so far this program gives me a new knowledge and experience because actually I'm new to these topics, especially bamboo. So 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 far it's quite fun. Yes,
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Aika Zulkifli. I'm from Malaysia. So for this conference, I feel good because there are more knowledge that I get. So that's all.
Hi, my name is Nur Aina Shifa. I'm from UITM from Malaysia, and the weather is good here. I get a new bamboo here.
Okay, thank you. First, I would like to be welcome for our guest from UPM. Let's join us. Take a seat and enjoy. I say hello to you guys. Yes. 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 Please have a seat. You are very welcome here. To our profound guests, I would like to inform that in this in this agenda that we are currently waiting for Dr. David Trujillo, uh, in the United Kingdom to give our next lecture. So currently we will wait for him, and now we have a little talk about. So. Maybe I would like to introduce our profound speakers that since the morning has been given us delightful and insightful knowledge. To the very right, that is Dr. Lee Shenghua from Malaysia. Okay. The next of Dr. Lee, that is Dr. Rangga Bashim Selvasembian from India. Dr. Lee Shenghua in the morning has given us the material of bamboo as materials for engineered wood products, while Dr. Rangga Bashim Selvasembian has given us the material of bamboo-based carbon for water pollutants removal. So since the morning, we have been given insightful and invaluable knowledge and have discussions about the material that has the professors that has been given to us. That's the update of the event. And to continue our conversations with our friends in the board, I was deeply appreciate that you don't complain about the weather here in Medan, because I am as a citizen originated in Medan, I complaining every day about this weather here. it is very hot. While it is very hot, and suddenly you're very wet. You have a high temperature. You have sweaty all over your body, and then suddenly, boom, rain, and you don't have a coat or whatever, and you get wet. Right now, maybe my helmet in my bike is already being a bowl containing water, and I can't use it anymore because of the storm that happened. So I appreciate you guys don't complain about the weather, because I complain about it every day. And about the food, I personally from India, I love biryani rice and curry. That's lovely.
Okay, roughly, I think we must give the warm greetings from our Dean of Faculty of Forestry.
Yes.
Mr. Rudy, PhD, and also Vice Dean 1, Professor Agus, and also Vice Dean 3, Mr. Alfan. Mr. Alfan, PhD. I think maybe Mr. Rudy, PhD, the Dean of Forestry Faculty, can give us some. Okay.
Is it really? As the Dean of Forestry Faculty, time and place is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang, Honorable to Prof. Hazandi from UPM, Honorable to keynote speaker
Dr. Rangga Basya.
India and from Malaysia ya. Nah, and juga also and whole committee ya. Terima kasih juga kepada semua teman-teman ya. Di sini saya pribadi ya mengucapkan selamat atas terlaksananya ya congratulations to program International Summer Course 2023 ya Bamboo for Biodiversity, Environment and Livelihood ya. Thank you and semoga berjalan dengan lancar ya. Itu saja mungkin, karena izin nanti mungkin kami ini mau keluar karena ini Prof. Hazandi dari Malaysia akan rencananya mau pergi ke Danau Toba. Jadi beliau ya Toba Lake ya. Want to go to Toba Lake. Ya. Oke, itu aja. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi
Wabarakatuh. Thank you, sir. So, in the next, I would like to say my greetings to Professor Hasandi, and I would like to be politely ask you to give us some words as the Dean of Faculty of Alam Sekitar UPM to Professor Hasandi. Time and place is yours.
All right, thank you, Mr. MC. I'm Azandi Abdulhamid from Faculty of Forestry and Environment, Utara, Malaysia. So for your information, Dr. Lee Seung Hwa used to be my student as well, and also my partner for badminton. He's good at badminton. All right, again, I would like to convey my appreciations of course, to the Rudy Hartono, the Deans of Faculty of Forestry, USU, for accepting us to be here in order for us to strengthen our collaborations in the context of academic research, student exchange, so on and so forth. I won't be long because just now Dr. Rudy said that we're going to Danau Toba. So it's now at 3, so it may take about 4 to 5 hours. So we'll be reached out there about, I think, 8 or 9 o'clock in the night. So I hope you enjoy this summer course, right? Summer course, and then we have very good speaker in front of you, Dr. Lee Seung Hwa. I'm not sure you from India, yeah. So hopefully this program can give you an insightful informations for you to venture more in the context of
bamboo, and engineering second. So I think that's all. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor Hasandi, for the delightful insight and that has been shared to us. And the next, I would like to say my greetings to Dr. David Trujillo, who has been gathered with us in the Zoom video conference. If I may confirm, Dr. David Trujillo, can you hear me? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Hello?
Okay, that's lovely to hear. Hello.
Yep.
Hello, Dr. David Trujillo. Let me introduce myself. My name is Muhammad Rafli Riansyah. I am the Master of Ceremony in this International Summer Course 2023, and I am currently a chemical engineering undergraduate student in final year. May healthy be with you. My greetings to you.
Hi, Mohammed. How are you?
Okay. Okay, Dr. David Trujillo, how are you? How are
well,
the conditions out there? Okay, that's
well,
very lovely.
it's getting a bit like autumn here, so it's not that warm. But other than that, fine. It's 9:18 in the morning in the UK, and I'm ready when you are.
Okay, that's lovely to hear. 9:18 in the morning, and here in Indonesia is 3:15 p.m. in the afternoon. Wow, that's at the summer in the whole year. Yeah, that's never winter in Indonesia. So, Dr. David Trujillo, we would like to hear from you about your lecture that you will be given to us about making bamboo a mainstream structural material. And your lecture will be moderated by Emma Patricia Bangun STMN PhD, that she is a lecturer in the Department of Civil Engineering, University of Sumatera Utara. To Miss Emma Patricia Bangun STMN PhD, time and place is yours.
Good afternoon, Dr. David Trujillo, and good afternoon to everybody here. Welcome to the last session of today's course on bamboo for biodiversity, environment, and livelihood at Universitas Sumatera Utara. My name is Emma Patricia Bangun, and within the next probably approximately 1 hour, I will be your moderator. Before we start, let me quickly explain that we will have about 15 minutes for listening to the presentation, and then approximately a 10-minute question and answer session. Our present guest speaker, as already introduced by our MC, is Dr. David Trujillo. He is an assistant professor at the EEC School of Energy, Construction and Environment, Coventry University, United Kingdom. The topic of the presentation is making bamboo a mainstream structural material. Before proceeding to the presentation, let me read a brief biography of Dr. David Trujillo. So Dr. David Trujillo is a chartered structural engineer with over 24 years experience of designing, teaching, and researching bio-based materials, namely timber and bamboo. Dr. Trujillo has authored or co-authored over 35 publications on the topic of bamboo structures, including 3 ISO standards. The latest of these is ISO 22156, published in 2021, Structural Design. Dr. Trujillo is the head of bio-based materials at Atelier 1, a structural engineering consultancy that is adopting bamboo in many of its projects. So one of the projects includes one of the famous green school building in Bali, Indonesia. He is also a member and former chair of the Inbar Bamboo Construction Task Force and heads the UK delegation at ISO Technical Committee 165 Timber Structures. Without further ado, I will hand it over to Dr. Trujillo for the presentation. Please, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen. Is that okay? Or how do you want me to proceed in terms of presentation?
which do you feel more comfortable, that you control the slide or our IT is available here? Which one is more comfortable for you?
I will try to share my screen. If that doesn't work, we'll default to working with your IT over there. Does that sound
Sure.
okay?
Yes. Yes. That.
Now, should my internet cause problems, just let me know and interrupt me as it happens.
No, there is no problem so far.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Emma, for that introduction, and hello to everyone at Universitas Sumatera Utara. For the last few years, I have been closely working with people in Indonesia, particularly in Bali, so it's great to be supporting another institution in Indonesia. Okay, so a bit about myself. I have been introduced. I just wanted to point out some other things. I was born and raised in Colombia. So I come from a country very much like Indonesia, a tropical country, where I did my undergraduate in Universidad Nacional de Colombia. That's where I discovered bamboo and where I started working with bamboo. I come from a country, again, very much like Indonesia, that's got earthquakes. So I felt it was necessary to do a master's in earthquake engineering, which I did in the UK. I've also completed my PhD at the Coventry University. And well, these are other things that we've mentioned. I'm going to not discuss in greater detail because Dr. Emma has already mentioned. I work at Coventry University as an assistant professor. I've also worked in industry part-time. I also have been very much involved in the writing and drafting of standards, particularly ISO standards. As I mentioned, have been working with organizations across Asia. I have, for example, with UITM in Malaysia, several joint PhD supervisions. I'm about to embark on a PhD supervision with De La Salle University in the Philippines. I have worked with Bogor Agricultural University in Indonesia. I have collaborated with organizations in the Philippines and more recently with an organization called Indo Bamboo in Indonesia. So you've probably heard a lot about bamboo in this session, so I'm going to quickly cover some things of why we find bamboo so interesting. And obviously it is that it grows in many parts of the world. It's a giant grass. There's a great variety of species. And one of the most appealing aspects of bamboo is, of course, its sustainability, which surely is being discussed in this event. And its sustainability is one of its really appealing characteristics. Sorry, there is a microphone on, and I hear a bit of background noise. It's distracting. If that could be resolved.
No, sir, it's perfectly fine here. Do you find any?
Yeah, I hear some background noise. Okay, thank you. It reproduces mainly in a vegetative manner, as you've probably seen in the sessions. Through the expansion of the root network, it creates a large root network of up to 100 kilometers per hectare. As you know, it grows very quickly. It doesn't undergo it only undergoes primary growth, but it doesn't become wider, so it doesn't have secondary growth. And it's ready to harvest in 3 to 5 years. So due to its rapid growth, it's a rapidly renewable resource. And by using it, we have the potential to substitute other forest products, which is the thing that I understand is of great interest in Indonesia to reduce pressure in primary forests. Due to the continuous production of culms, it's a haven for associated species, particularly if it's a native species. Then there would be native species that would have adapted to coexist with bamboo. It also has a characteristic which is different to trees, which is that you can harvest it with little impact to the forest. It's inexpensive to harvest, so it means poorer members that have working with the forest can harvest it with very inexpensive tools. And one of the really interesting characteristics about bamboo is that harvesting bamboo is actually beneficial for the carbon cycle because stems have a fairly short life cycle or the culms, and if you don't convert them into structural materials or durable materials, then the carbon that's been sequestered in the culm will naturally return to the atmosphere. So by harvesting culms or stems and making them into durable products, we are fixing carbon from the atmosphere and helping bamboo plantations be actually even better forms of fixing carbon. So the goal is to try to make bamboo into durable products. And undoubtedly, the most durable products are those associated with construction industry. So that is one of the reasons why I'm very interested in bamboo, is because of its sustainability potential. It also has other qualities, environmental qualities. It's probably been discussed throughout these sessions that I won't dwell too much in. One of the things we did, a research project that we did in 2018, is we compared the carbon footprint of a square meter of construction of different forms of building in Colombia. And so we had, in first instance, a single-story bamboo house using a technique I'll talk about you later on, that we, in Latin America, it's known as bareque, but we've lately been calling it composite bamboo shear walls. This would be a brick single-story house. So you can see the magnitude of the embodied carbon of a single-story brick house is pretty high per square meter. And if you consider carbon sequestration in the case of bamboo, bamboo can be actually negative. Again, with concrete hollow block, it's a bit lower than the brick single-story house, but it's still quite high. And then we had also cases of using laminated bamboo in the case of a single-story house or potentially a multi-story building. And again, you can see that a laminated bamboo product would have potentially a negative carbon footprint. So from the point of view of the carbon cycle, we demonstrated for the case of Colombia that bamboo has a potential to have a much smaller carbon footprint and possibly even negative carbon footprint. Again, you've probably been familiarized with these concepts throughout these sessions, but I'll go through them. One of the things we can use bamboo is to make it into a stem. We can use it just as a stem. We can cut it out into strips. We can flatten it, or we can make engineered bamboo products. Now, in the world of engineered bamboo products, there are two main products: laminated bamboo and another product called scrimber. To date, this one is the most interesting one, laminated bamboo, for structural applications. And this is a product that is potentially going to be industrialized in Indonesia. There is potential to use it for structural or semi-structural applications. And then, of course, you have the possibility of just using bamboo in its round form, which is a traditional way of using bamboo in Indonesia. And I would dare say that the two countries in the world that I've seen that use most bamboo in the round form are Colombia and Indonesia. Now, let's talk a bit about mechanical properties of bamboo. So from my research, and for a species from Colombia called Gualdo angustifolia, we found that the mean bending strength of the sample we studied was about nearly 83 newtons millimeter squared, or megapascals, whichever unit you're more familiar with, which is the exchangeable, which converted to something we call characteristic strength, makes it comparable with some of the best hardwoods. But its compressive strength was really very, very impressive. It's very high, with around 56 megapascals, which is higher than nearly all hardwoods. Its shear strength is okay. It's not bad, but it's not brilliant. And then we have a characteristic that's not particularly good, which is tensile strength perpendicular to the fibers, which puts it in grain in sort of the level with softwoods. In terms of stiffness, one of the things that people commonly say is that bamboo is very flexible. And this is a relative thing. And I don't think it's particularly flexible. It's just we can bend it a lot before it breaks. And that's what's led people to think it's very flexible. But in terms of modulus of elasticity, many bamboos are actually better than most hardwoods. One common species in Indonesia, Dendrocalamus asper, has a pretty high modulus of elasticity. So it's not necessarily a very true thing that it's very flexible. Of course, it's more flexible than concrete and steel and those mainstream structural materials, but not necessarily that incredibly flexible. So let's go through some properties of bamboo by comparing them to other materials. So if you pull bamboo and you put it in tension, you have a material that is, I don't know, it's quite a hard test. It's not a very useful mechanical property, but one that's very exciting. It's about a third of the tensile strength, third or quarter of the strength of steel, but steel is 12 times heavier. So you start thinking, wow, that's really exciting. What could we do with the tensile strength of bamboo? So far, we don't have many ideas. Bending strength, it's stronger than, as I was saying, hardwoods. And you, by strength to weight ratio, can be even higher than steel, but it will be governed by deflection. Compression, parallel to the fibers, as I said, it's stronger than most timber species, and it will be comparable with a pretty good concrete. And concrete weighs 4 times more. In terms of modulus elasticity, it's stiffer than many hardwoods, as I was saying. Half as stiff as concrete, and a 12th of the stiffness of steel. So it's not that great in terms of stiffness, but there again, it's about, steel is 12 times heavier. So in terms of stiffness to weight ratio, it's not that bad, but you would need a lot of bamboo to achieve a similar behavior. Now, where we start having problems as we go down, so shear is not that good. It's still better than concrete, but it's still not a great shear strength, and we have lots of problems with its thin walls and the tendency to split. So we have a material that has an aspect which is hard to use, and then if you pull it perpendicular to its fibers, it's really weak. How can we use bamboo? We can use it as with its culms being exposed and making structures in that form, or what we've called engineered bareke or composite bamboo shear walls. So in Colombia, and you similarly have in Indonesia, a history of using bamboo in its round form. This is a watercolor from the 19th century, reflecting the techniques of using bamboo from our natives. Here's a photograph of the 20th century of the techniques used by our natives of making bamboo bridges. This is sort of a modern interpretation of how to use bamboo for bridges. This one is a really interesting case. I like it very much because it's the architect and the builders of this bridge are Colombian, but it's built in China. And I find it an interesting case study because it's a Colombian showing the Chinese how to use bamboo sounds paradoxical, because the Chinese are really, in all things bamboo related, really very, very advanced. This is again a building under construction. It's going to be a church and community hall in Colombia. This is a roof of a golf course in Colombia. This is a restaurant in a very hot valley. But what I like about this is this was built like in 1996, 1998. So it's been around for a long time and it's still in a great condition. So it shows that bamboo construction can be durable. And this is a really, really important point. We can make durable construction with bamboo. This is a toll booth in a road in Colombia. Again, exposed bamboo. Now we go to Indonesia. This is the Green School Gymnasium, or the ARC, engineered by the company I work for on a part-time basis, Atelier 1, and designed by architects Ibuku in Bali. And I've had the fortune of visiting this building, and it's fantastic. It's really, really beautiful. This one is another Colombian architect, but designing in China. And I like this building very much. It's the Inbar Garden from 2019 in the Horticulture Expo in China. And what I like about this building very much is because it feels very modern. It shows that, you know, you could imagine a modern application, an urban application for bamboo. So yeah. Now, what I was telling you about the other way of using bamboo, which is what we call traditionally in Latin America bareque, or we now calling composite bamboo shear walls. You're probably looking at this house, it's in a farm, and you're saying, where's the bamboo? Well, the bamboo is concealed in the walls and in the roof. And that is because the farmers, when they built these houses back over 100 years ago, they knew bamboo wasn't very durable. So they would hide it from the elements and just leave timber, which was easier. You could get, in those times, tropical hardwoods in these locations, which they knew they would be more durable. There was also an aesthetic and social aspect, which is that in those times, they associated bamboo with poverty. So they didn't want to expose bamboo. Now, I don't know if you've had the chance to watch the film Encanto from Disney, but this type of housing is represented in the film. And if you watch the film again, you can see where the bamboo is shown in the house. Now, a friend of mine traveled to the Philippines and exported this technology over there. And there was a big question about, would it be appropriate for the Philippines? Because in Colombia, whether we have earthquakes, we have very limited, you know, our wind speeds are small, whereas in the Philippines, they're very high. So it was interesting, and so far it's demonstrated to be resilient to typhoons. So it's a technology that is, shall I say, disaster resilient. And it's been exported to many other parts of the world, to Peru, Ecuador, Mexico, Costa Rica. And we've tried to export it to other countries around the world. Now, what it consists of, if you make a bamboo, sometimes a timber element across the top to make carpentry simpler, you have an expanded mesh, and then you apply a cement mortar render. This composite bamboo shear wall system is inexpensive, disaster resilient, and as you see, the bamboo is concealed from the rain and the sun. And by doing that, we protect bamboo and make it durable. In Colombia, they've demonstrated that it's earthquake resilience. We knew it was earthquake resilient. They've done testing. This was a test of a 2-story building and a shake table, and they did the tests over and over and again, and they just couldn't get the building to fall down. In the end, they just had to destroy it with a sledgehammer. So that was a bit of context about bamboo, why it makes sense to use bamboo, why we need to use bamboo. So how can we make bamboo a mainstream material? Let's start by defining what is a mainstream or conventional material. Possible characteristics. 1, firstly, it's readily available. It is available in the market through a reputable and trustworthy supply chain. So when you go and buy steel, you know that you can have a product that is reliable and supplied to you by a reputable supplier. So I said reliable. We need mechanical and physical properties that can be relied upon. We don't need to be guessing how strong a material is. We need to be confident that it's as strong as we say it is. It needs to be well understood. So we need most structural engineers and other building professionals to know how to use it, and there's a consensus of how it can and should be used. This is a really important point, and one that doesn't quite, we have some issues here with bamboo, and we'll come and define that. But if you think about reinforced concrete, you know, there's over more than 100 years, a consensus has been developed between structural engineers about how it should be used, and architects know how to use it and avoid certain mistakes. And it also needs to be legal to use. We need national legislation as well as codes and standards to support its use. So those are the characteristics I have thought of are the characteristics of mainstream or conventional material. So we need to work towards making bamboo reputable and trustworthy. We need to work towards mechanical and physical properties that can be relied upon. We need to work to a way to make it, how to achieve that people know how to use it. And there is a consensus of how it can be and should be used. And that is mainly, we think, many of these points are addressed through codes and standards. So in September 2013, I traveled to the city of Stuttgart and joined Technical Committee 165, and we created Working Group 12, Bamboo Structures. And though there had been some bamboo work in ISO standards, it had gone dormant. So we reactivated that work, and we created Working Group. And we also created a task force as part of INBAR. INBAR is the International Organization for Bamboo and Rattan. It's based in Beijing, and it includes many countries, including Indonesia. And we started developing standards. We saw as goal to rewrite this one, which was ISO 22156 from 2004. It was about structural design, and we thought this is the goal, to rewrite this one. But we realized we needed to create a basis for writing that one. So we also revised the test standards, which was revised in 2019, and we created a brand new standard about grading of bamboo. First published in 2018, and we are due to revise it, start revising it this year. So we created 3 standards around the structural use of bamboo in its round form in bamboo columns. We also, with this work, initiated work about using engineered bamboo. So we have some test standards. Very soon we'll have a second test standard method and another, a glue laminated bamboo product specification. So are these standards new? No. There's been development of codes and standards around the world for over 23 years. The first recorded code or standard that we know of occurred in California, of all places. Now, it wasn't a very useful standard. The only thing it gave you was a way to derive design values, nothing else. It didn't tell you how to it didn't have any species, it didn't have mechanical properties, it didn't tell you how to design a beam or a column or a connection or a shear wall or anything about grading. So it was pretty useless code, but it was the first attempt. Then in 2002, Colombia, as a result of an earthquake, they developed a standard for the use of that technique of construction called the composite bamboo shear wall system. It only had 1 species allowed. And it didn't give you any mechanical properties. It didn't tell you how to derive design values. It didn't tell you how to design beams, but it did let you design some columns. It had details about joints, so it didn't tell you how to design them. And it said, this is how you design shear walls. So we then later had standards emerging across the world. But the really most important ones that were in 2010 in Colombia, the first useful code appears because it now has all these characteristics, though it doesn't have much about grading. And then, and this standard is due to be reviewed, and probably in 2024, it'll come a reviewed version of it, a revised version, sorry. And in 2021, we published the ISO standard, which is meant to be a template for countries to adopt bamboo. So this, hopefully the end of this year, beginning of next year, we'll be producing a manual that accompanies it. And we would strongly invite Indonesia to start initiating their own work and developing their own code and standard for the use of bamboo. So as I mentioned, we've got these 3 codes or standards that were developed with ISO. And they're all written in a way that they are a template for other countries to adopt. We've also incorporated into a family of standards. So if you look here, we have thought of how they fall from product specification all the way to structural design. So we had one, which was a grading procedure. We have a material testing standard. We have a structural design standard over here. But we thought, why derive a new standard for the derivation of characteristic values? We said, we just borrow from timber because we think the principles are the same. And that way we could create a procedure to design structural elements. And for other things that we didn't know the answer to, we borrowed from timber again because we thought they were transferable. The last time we had a face-to-face meeting of ISO TC 165 was in Bogota, Colombia. And that was September 2019. And we took them to see bamboo structures because the committee had only seen timber structures in these trips. So I was mentioning we have these different standards. This one is about testing. And these tests have been written in a way that they make it easier to test in labs that are not necessarily first-class quality. They can be less high quality. And we included some new testing procedures to understand some mechanical properties that hadn't been assessed. In terms of grading, in ISO 19624, oh, sorry, there's a problem with this slide. The arrows are black, but it should show, before we launched this standard, we had a standard, there wasn't any real consensus globally of how you should grade bamboo. More or less what people would do was they'd check the species, the taper, if there were cracks and so forth. And if it complied with all, people would say, well, it's structural grade. But there was no standard putting these words as such. I think possibly until we launched the standard, the best example of grading was provided by India. And they had a grading procedure where you had 3 groups of bamboo and 3 diameter grades. And 4 diameter grades, and I quite like this approach that they had, and it's quite a useful approach, yeah, so it's one possible avenue to work. One of the key things that they were doing in India was this notion of introducing grades by diameter, which we'll pick up later on. When we launched ISO 19624, we weren't sure where to start because, as I said, there wasn't any global consensus. My experience was very focused on Guadua, and I didn't want to make something too focused on one species. We wanted to make it universal. So one of the things to point out is that it's not a prescriptive standard, it is a framework. So the idea is that this standard gives you a procedure to develop a grading standard, more than being a grading standard as such. It creates procedures for visual grading, for machine grading. It introduced a concept called initial evaluation, which is a really important aspect. And it provides examples of how a grading procedure could work. It introduces a concept called capacity grading, as well as strength grading, visual or machine or hybrid grading. And it emphasizes that you need to assess geometrical properties as well as other properties during grading. Because in timber, you don't focus too much on geometric properties. And we thought, well, this needs to be different. We explained what you need to consider when you grade bamboo. So one of those things is the presence of cracks. One of the things that most worries me in bamboo is the development of cracks. There are other things that people talk a lot about age. And there are things that are really important, like understanding the diameter of a bamboo, which seems really intuitive, but people haven't thought about in much detail. So how could visual grading work? So it could work in the following way. You check for some characteristics. You think it's of structural quality. So, it doesn't have too much cracks. It doesn't have fungus or insect damage. And then you assign to a diameter-based grade. So remember that idea that India had about working on the basis of diameters? That could be a way to use it. Apologies, this slide is looking really weird. Let's just make this smaller. What we did make prescriptive in our standard was we did say, this is a procedure, how you create some grading rules. This is the size of the samples you need to follow. This is the procedure of mechanical properties, determination of mechanical properties. And you must check your properties every so many years. And that is because bamboo forests are likely to change over the years, particularly if it's a very young forest. If you planted it within 7 years, it will be a different forest than it will be in 14 years. So you have to go and revisit the characteristics. And then you could have tables like this one. This is an example. It's not prescriptive, but you could have a table. Well, this could be your different grades. And then each grade has a series of properties assigned to it. So a bit like the Indian idea, but we're not working here with strengths, but with capacities. So instead of stating bending strength or MOR, you state the moment at which it would break. Well, a characteristic moment, and so forth. And this is how you could work. You just measure diameters and assign it to different diameter grades. Now, in terms of machine grading, when we embarked on this journey, no one had done machine grading for bamboo. So how would it work? So we researched the possibilities. We knew that in timber there were techniques. And what is machine grading? Sometimes people think it necessarily involves machines. It isn't really. We've come to the conclusion that machine grading should be better defined, and probably in the revision we're going to define it as inference-based grading. It is inferring the properties of bamboo by measuring something known to correlate to the properties. Let me explain. For example, we have found that dry linear mass of bamboo, and that has to be dry, the linear mass correlates really well to the bending moment it fails. So maybe just by weighing it, you know how much moment it can take, provided the bamboo is dry. That is a good correlation. We, in fact, have found that this correlation is applicable to species from Indonesia. We found that it's applicable from species grown in Mexico. So maybe we could apply a universal principle of correlation of mass to flexural capacity. We could have a universal correlation for other properties. This was for compressive capacity, and it was found that for Indonesian species, it also applied. We found that similar sort of properties can apply for other properties. So maybe we can arrive at a world where we could submit our bamboo to more sophisticated measure procedures to grade, where we measure both diameter and mass or some other property, and we assign the bamboo to that procedure. So remember what I was telling you about making bamboo mainstream, is maybe we in the future we can have a supply chain where suppliers will send structural engineers bamboo of a certain grade. And so you say, I want bamboo that is grade whatever, 100, and they will send you bamboo that will be of a certain diameter, of a certain strength, and you can trust it. So this was really important. It was about that first thing I said about making it mainstream, having a reliable product supplying the market. And this is more or less how machine grading could work. Again, you could have tables that give you some properties. And I was saying, why I've got these photographs here is you can have really simple instruments. Machine grading, don't let it mislead you to think that it requires sophisticated machines. It can be really basic machines. It's just instruments, but it's all about inference. And to make reliable inferences, you need huge databases. Okay. The final standard that we worked towards developing was ISO 22156, which is, I think, of the three standards, the most important one. And it applies to the design of bamboo structures whose primary load bearing is made of round bamboo, so bamboo combs, or shear panel systems, so composite bamboo shear wall, in which the framing members are made from round bamboo. We have limited it, and this is a really important point, to 1 and 2 stories. And though you have examples in Indonesia of up to, I think, 5 stories built in Bali, we wanted to limit to 1 and 2 stories because of the fire issue. Okay. We are limited to designing resistance, serviceability, and durability of bamboo structures. And it allows for different design procedures. We can adapt it to partial safety factor design or load and resistance factor design, LRFD. We also allow a procedure that we inherited from the earlier version of ISO 22156, which I think is a wonderful idea to keep, which is something called previous established experience, which means we would create an avenue for legal design, if you adopt it as a national standard, of indigenous procedures. Because indigenous communities have been using bamboo for centuries, and we can't suddenly create laws that makes their designs illegal. So this was a really nice idea that we've rolled over, and I'm happy to elaborate that if anyone wants to know more about it. We've also allowed for another procedure, design by testing, which would allow innovation. We also borrow from, as I mentioned, from timber standards to make our life easier in terms of not having to write lots and lots of standards that are going to be practically the same, not the same as the timber ones. We just borrow from them because they're all about testing and determination of values, not about the peculiarities of bamboo. Some of the things that we've made in this standard that are specific to bamboo: one, we've made it about the susceptibility of bamboo to longitudinal splitting. Now, bamboo cracks, and it's in round form, it cracks as a characteristic. When it's laminated bamboo, this phenomenon disappears, but in the round shape, this happens. And it's a source of concern. So until we fully figure out how it happens, what can be done to avoid it, and what implications it had, we thought we would proceed with caution. Some of these cracks are visible, like the ones I've got here, but sometimes they're invisible, like this internal one here. You wouldn't know this bamboo's cracked, not easily, and the problem is that its consequences are already occurring. So we require people to have redundancy of members. We also have borrowed a concept from timber, which is service classes as a simple way to affect the strength of bamboo according to the anticipated equilibrium moisture content. We have borrowed some concepts of durability, but we have made them bamboo specific. We have discussed about the effects of high temperature because it was observed that bamboo at high temperatures loses strength. So that's for very exceptional circumstances. We've also discussed something about fire. We've said that maintenance, inspection, and the ability to replace structural members is key to bamboo. We have introduced ways to test and design connections, and we have introduced ways to design and test composite bamboo shear walls, or bareke, as we've talked about. Now, one of the things that's really, really important about bamboo is that if we want to make bamboo durable, so if we want to make bamboo mainstream, we need to make bamboo durable. And if we want to make bamboo durable and benefit over all those things that we were talking about, the carbon cycle, we need to observe some rules. And this is probably the one issue that we most have to campaign, particularly with the architects who are present within you, is that bamboo must be kept dry and protected from rain and ultraviolet rays. If we keep it dry and protected from ultraviolet rays, we will have a durable material, provided it's also combined with chemical preservation. But chemical preservation is not magic. It will not protect from rain and ultraviolet rays by itself. So mainly chemical preservation is about insects and not by damage caused by ultraviolet rays and fungus. So we've said if you keep bamboo in these three conditions, which is interior and dry, interior occasionally damp, and exterior but above ground, you will have a durable product. If it gets occasionally wet, you will have a limited design life. And in these other circumstances, its design life is going to be limited. We have stressed this in papers we've written. If you keep bamboo dry in the inside of a building, it will be durable. So those conditions, so here below a roof, which is an impermeable barrier, or behind a wall that's an impermeable barrier, you're going to have a durable bamboo. If you don't, and you let rain, and one of the rules we've come up with, which is just based on evidence, is that if you imagine a 45-degree angle line, any bamboo that is exposed in that line is not going to be durable. And I've seen it with my own eyes, this sort of 45-degree rule. This is a building in Colombia, which they built in this very peculiar manner. I don't know why, but it was really good for evidence, where you have the roof here. From here upwards, the bamboo is in perfectly good condition. And from this point downwards, it's degrading. And that just shows what happens. It's just bamboo doesn't like to get wet. It doesn't like to get exposed to sunlight. And the problem is that when you don't obey these rules, bamboo passes from being a beautiful material to a really ugly, cheap-looking material. And this is one of the reasons why people for a long time have associated bamboo with poor man's timber, because it doesn't last. So if you don't obey the rules of protecting it from wetting, then we don't have a durable material. And remember one of the things I said, the consensus, that people agree how to use bamboo. So to make bamboo mainstream, we have to come to an agreement that we can't expose bamboo to wetting. It's a really hard battle because architects are all the time tempted to expose it to wetting. The other thing that's really challenging with bamboo, which is in flux, is how to make connections. So we've introduced some concepts about connection making. We've introduced some approximate equations to calculate some types of connections. That I must admit, those equations aren't as good as I would have liked them to be. If there's something I want to really work on and research in greater detail is connection making in bamboo. And we have some annexes of how you can make bamboo connections. And so one of the things to think about when you make bamboo connections is, are the elements in the same axes, like here? So the axes of these elements are in the same plane, or are the axes of these members in different planes? If in the same plane, you can make connections like this one, which is called the fish mouth, with the bolted connection inside, and so it looks inside like this. And it can be challenging how to make these connections. You could use gussets like this one, made from plywood. They're not particularly pretty, though. Or you can put them in a more handsome connection, but it deflects more. So, you have to think about how you make bamboo connections. And then, as I said, this standard also allows for this type of construction. So, in summary, ISO 22156 is a model code intended to be supplemented by national annexes that would prescribe limits on species, dimension, grading parameters, and allowable stress. ISO is a bamboo column specific standard, so it's the first international exhaustive standard, or tries to be exhaustive, about bamboo and its peculiarities. And it's based on, and I stress the word product. Let's think of bamboo columns not as a material, but as a product. That is based on international, experimental, and experiential work of over decades and observations. It's broad applicability, and it's built upon using ISO 19624, the grading standard. It borrows a lot from timber in some of its concepts. It's built around familiar concepts from other standards, and we think it should be fairly easy to adopt, particularly once you develop sort of span tables and capacity tables. So what next? We're developing engineered bamboo standards. We want to continue researching connections, shear walls, engineered bamboo products, and grading, particularly to understand how different species across the planet fit into these procedures. We need to create manuals for all these standards. We're working on ISO 22156, but we need to work on the others. We need to disseminate these standards and work towards adaptation and adoption. And we need, this is a really important point, we need to teach structural design with bamboo to future generations of engineers. This is something we need to do soon. Lecturers in this room, we really need to work towards this. We need to have future engineers learning to use materials that have low carbon footprint, so that we can transition to a low carbon world soon. If we continue teaching steel and concrete to future generations of engineers, we're not adapting them to the future. We're teaching them stuff from the 20th century. So this needs to change. And many thanks for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed that session. Any questions? Hello? Your microphone's off. I think when I requested silence, there it is.
Okay, you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, my name is Ahmad. I'm from the Department of Architecture in Universitas Sumatera Utara. We here in the research about nearly zero carbon building in urban area, which is using a bamboo. In Indonesia here, the perception is bamboo building is always a rural building. So architect is got to be so an effort, yeah, much effort to design bamboo as a urban building, so people here can accept it as a urban building. So what do you think about this zero carbon building in urban area with material of bamboo? Thank you.
Great. That's a really good question. Thank you very much. So I think bamboo, when you use it as a round material, is very much a rural material. I think it can also work as a suburban location, and that is because in its round shape, we are limited to 1 or 2 stories, really, because bamboo in its round shape doesn't have a lot of inherent fire resistance. Now, you can improve bamboo's fire resistance by putting bamboo in what we would call encapsulating it. So you put it inside fire-resistant materials like plasterboard, and then you can achieve good levels of fire resistance, but then you wouldn't see it, which is fine, because many people in urban environments don't want to see bamboo. So that's a possibility. But we think that when you start going to multi-story construction, the shape of bamboo might present itself as an impediment to fast construction and so forth. So that's where engineered bamboo comes in, and laminated bamboo products, which, as I say, are being developed in Indonesia, come in to work very well, because what you can do is borrow many of the technologies that have been developed for timber across the world, which is, again, you can, in some instances, leave it exposed, in some instances, encapsulate it in plasterboard. You could exploit other technologies that are available to timber, like charring rates and so forth, which is that you oversize the members and you let them burn gradually. So these other technologies that are available to timber and that have accompanied the explosion of timber construction for multi-story buildings can be transferred to bamboo. So I think, yes, in urban areas you can use bamboo, but depending on what sort of urban area we're talking about, the technology is appropriate. So if we're quite central in a city, I think engineered bamboo is the way to go forward, not bamboo in the round shape. But in suburban areas, where we're still thinking of making housing more than buildings, I think bamboo technologies are usable, because that's precisely that project I was telling you about in the Philippines is using bamboo in suburban areas pretty well.
Okay, is there any more questions? Yes, Dr. Rami, or from the students? Yes, yes, please. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you can speak from there. I forgot.
Okay. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, let me introduce myself. I am Ahmad Ardi from Department of Civil Engineering from Universitas Sumatera Utara. The first, I hear you say that bamboo can substitute concrete as a structural material. We know that steel and concrete are usually used to a building construction material. My question is, in your opinion, what made you choose a bamboo for a construction building material?
Okay.
I mean limited bamboo.
Okay, let me clarify something. I don't think bamboo can replace concrete. Okay, it can replace, we should minimize the amount of concrete we use, but there's some applications of concrete that we won't replace concrete. Okay, we can't make foundations out of bamboo. Okay? We can't make anything that gets wet with bamboo. We have to continue using concrete for those applications because concrete is great for that. But we use concrete in incredibly stupid manners as well, okay? We use concrete to do things that concrete does very, very badly. One of those examples is we make flat slabs out of concrete. Any application where we put concrete to be horizontal is a stupid application of concrete. And the reason being because half of the concrete in an unreinforced member, in a reinforced concrete member, but not in a post-tensioned member, half of that concrete is not doing anything. So we are using a material that's heavy to do nothing. And if you're in a seismically active location, that means that you're adding mass that you then have to develop a structure to resist the earthquake forces caused by that mass. So I don't think we can replace concrete in everything. As I say, concrete is a brilliant material for some applications. It works very well when it's working compression. It's a great material for foundations. We couldn't build reservoirs with anything, particularly certain type of reservoirs and things like that. We have to build them with concrete. Water tanks, concrete. But we don't need to make our buildings or everything in our building out of concrete. So that's where I want to clarify. Now, why did I want to choose bamboo? I chose bamboo for 3 reasons. Why did I get inspired? One was because bamboo is very strong. And I found that exciting, about a material that was really strong, that grows. And that grows in 35 years, you're ready to harvest it. The second reason why I was very excited about bamboo was sustainability. Because this is a material that instead of increasing carbon in the atmosphere, reduces the carbon in the atmosphere. So that I found was very exciting as well. Like, imagine having a material that instead of making the planet worse, makes it better. And the third reason why I chose bamboo is because I come from a country like Indonesia, where there are rural communities and urban communities who are poor. And I was excited about the idea of building an industry that changes the balance of who becomes rich and who prospers. So in the cement industry around the world and the steel industry around the world belongs to just a few people. So they're industries that concentrate wealth. Now, bamboo has a potential to create wealth with farmers, with rural industries, create a supply chain that goes right to the bottom to help a lot of people across the country and help them prosper. And that's one of the things that I found was exciting about bamboo. The idea that you can help more people to have houses, to have properties, and to have businesses and industries. That idea excites me a great deal. There is some very interesting work going on precisely in Indonesia. I think it's the 1,000 Village Project, which is really interesting. It's the idea of seeing how we can plant more and more bamboo and that more and more rural communities can prosper from this.
Clear, yeah, I guess. Clear, very clear. Yes, for the next session, Mr. Frank, yeah? Okay. Please name your home affiliation as well and your name. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Frankie. I'm an architect, and also we already built a bamboo building in a rural area near Medan. Actually, we are already changing the perception of the community using the bamboo, because they thought that bamboo is the pest, and they burn all the bamboo and causing landslide to the area. That's why we educate the people, and we built a massive, not so big, medium size of bamboo hall, and we already changed the perception. And also we we make the building cost not so expensive because it's less than the comparably we build the concrete buildings. But this is the interesting fact that when I go to Bali, with so many premium buildings built with construction approximately 5 to 6 times than we build in the rural area. I think this is the challenge to change the bamboo. You mentioned that bamboo can be used for the mainstream building, but actually for the rural area, suburban, and also outside Bali, yeah, it is a challenging material consider to be the main materials, considering about the budget, construction budget, because of the premium projects, 5 to 6 times more expensive. That's why when we try to convince the people in the community, it is so difficult. That's why we avoid using the contractor and building by using the community. I think this is the main experience that we tackle about the construction budget. But I want to get your opinion about this. You mentioned about the 1,000 villages is the one of the solution, but in Indonesia, this is the main issue that we have to tackle to make the bamboo more mainstream. And I want your opinion about this. Thank you.
Thank you. I really liked your question, and I really liked your anecdote and your story. I liked it very much. You've mentioned one of the first things that is really important is that by removing bamboo, you've created landslides become more common, and that's a really important thing. Bamboo plays a really important role in the environment. It helps prevent erosion, it helps regulate the water cycle, and it creates livelihood for species. So you move bamboo and you make the environment worse. You keep bamboo, you make it better. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, yes, bamboo can be cheap, but in the case of Bali, what is important to understand why it comes out so expensive is because the clients and the way that construction in Bali works is not about making it cheap. It's about making it special. So this work is like very much, I'm going to make an analogy with furniture, okay? You're going to have either furniture that is made for bespoke for you. So you ask a carpenter to make you a piece of furniture. And maybe this is a very special carpenter, and this is going to be expensive furniture. Or you can have industrially made furniture that makes things quickly, and you reduce the prices. You've also mentioned a third route, which is working with the community. The issue of working with the community is fine in rural locations, but not necessarily transferable to urban and suburban conditions. We can't expect someone to come out of their day in the factory and go and build their house. It's just not going to happen. They're just going to be too tired, and so and we can't expect the same from office workers or something like that to come out from the office and go and build their house. So what I think the solution is, and it's a solution that is used in the world of timber, but it's not used in the world of bamboo yet, is industrialization. Can we do processes that are repetitive, that are not about making the most beautiful house in bamboo? Yeah, let's make them beautiful, but it doesn't mean that my house has to be different to my neighbor's house. And because this is what happens in Bali, these houses are unique, and they're all about showing the beauty of bamboo, but not very much about seeking to make bamboo economical. So what I think we need to explore is ways that we can make bamboo economical by optimizing processes, by standardizing details, and by making industrialized process. We just make, say, a factory. It could be something with a concept called a flying factory, which means that you don't take all your bamboo to a location in Indonesia, make the things, and then take the bamboo back to the location. What you can do is you have a factory that you take to your project, and there you make standardized procedures, and you might be able to make cheaper construction. So these are approaches that I think need to be explored and that need to be developed. And I'm happy to elaborate more on this on another occasion.
Mr. Frankie, okay, is that sufficient for you? Okay, anyone would like to ask? Okay, first maybe our student, some civil engineering. Okay,
Yep.
please give your name and your.
Let me to introduce myself, sir. My name is Raffles Bandreti, and I'm from student at civil engineering. Bamboo is a material that, if exposed to water or moist, can experience withering or can attack by termite or insect. Is there any action being taken to prevent this? And is there a grant that by using bamboo, the lifespan of a building can be low? Does it need a maintenance after it is built? That's my question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question. So this is a point I mentioned in the talk. ISO 22156 requires you to keep bamboo dry. So it means that the rolls it uses in the structure are rolls where it can be kept dry. Okay, so if it's likely to get wet, don't use bamboo. If you can use a roofing material that is going to protect it from wetting, use a roofing material that's durable. If you can use a material that protects it from wetting on the walls, use that other material. Now, you might say, well, that's peculiar, but when you make a steel building, you have to cover the steel building with something. You have to cover it with paint, and you have to maintain the paint. And if you're near the sea, then you're going to have corrosion issues, so you have to maintain it. And the same goes for concrete. Even concrete needs to be protected from the environment. So what we have to do is learn to work with the material that we've got. And these are the things we need to understand. One of the things that we don't need to understand is not confuse that because bamboo is strong, it is durable. It needs to be protected from water, ultraviolet rays in our design. It's what we call durability by design. And it's a concept that exists in all materials, but particularly in timber. And then in terms of how to protect from termites and insects, which thank you very much for the question, we need to protect it fundamentally through chemical treatment. Bamboo cannot resist the attack from insects without the help of chemicals. They don't have to be very toxic chemicals. We are recommending boron-based chemicals. And so borax and boric acid is proven to be a good solution. Again, you can find about this in Indonesia. There is a history of using borax and boric acid. You can find in Bali, there's a history of using it. And it's a simple solution that works well, provided you also keep the bamboo dry and drained. And ventilated and protected from ultraviolet rays. In that condition, bamboo will last a long time. If you don't, it won't last. So, and there are other techniques to protect from termites. So you never get bamboo in contact with the ground because termites mainly attack from the ground. So if you elevate the bamboo from the ground and you put it on concrete or brick plinths or some other way of creating a separation from the ground, and you have means of inspecting that termites are not building tunnels towards the bamboo, again, you can keep bamboo durable. So yes, you will have to do some maintenance, but the same goes for all materials. We have to maintain them. Just the maintenance will be different. The frequency of maintenance will be different. And key, the detailing, the way we design, both architects and engineers, the way we work with those details are going to be different as well.
I believe that they are still, yes, please, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Okay, introduce myself. My name is Akbar, from student in Faculty Forestry in Kuala Bukala. Okay, my question, we know that bamboo is a material that is not durable, Mr. And I wonder if preserved bamboo is made for construction, how long will it last in tropical condition when compared to wood? Okay.
Okay, that's a very good question. So the answer is depends. Okay, if you got a very durable timber and you put it in a very bad environment, it's not going to last long. If you put that very durable timber in a good environment, it's going to last indefinitely. I don't know if you saw recently in a part of Africa, they discovered a piece of wood that had been carved by humans from 400,000 years ago. Can I repeat that number? 400,000 years ago. How did that piece of wood last so long? It was in a condition where it wouldn't rot. It was in an anaerobic condition. So it was in a certain soil, in a certain condition, and it lasted long. Okay. So if you want to know about the most durable construction material, you would have rock, and then you would have this piece of wood that was in perfect environment to last for a long time. So what you need to bear in mind is that materials can be made to be durable if we keep them in optimal conditions. So what would those conditions be in the tropics? We would need to provide roofs that are big enough with large overhangs that protect from wetting. Now let me show you, share screen again. That image there, can you see it? It is a roof in a tropical condition in Colombia. See, it's a really large roof. This bamboo in this roof is protected from wetting. You know, the rain has to do something really strange to get up there. So this bamboo is going to last long. It all has another advantage, that by making this roof so big, this environment around here is cool. So you don't need as much air conditioning or anything at all. The location where this is really very, 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 very hot. It's a hot valley. And they don't have air conditioning in this building because the roof is so big. So you make a very big roof. You don't have any bamboo in contact with the ground. You imagine any location where water can come. You don't put any bamboo anywhere where water can come. That rule that I said, 45 degrees. And then if you do all these things and also apply the chemical preservation so that insects don't attack it, there's no reason to believe that bamboo will not be durable for 50 or so years. We have had modern bamboo constructions in Colombia in locations for over 30 years, and they're doing fine. The evidence is that they can last those years. So we can do it. It's just a matter of doing the designs correctly and using chemical preservation.
Dr. Julio, perhaps a question from Dr. Rami? Do you have? Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, Dr. David. I'm
Good
Rahmi
afternoon.
from Civil Engineering Department. Have you ever researched about the strength and or maybe durability bamboo as a building materials after earthquake? Thank you very much.
That's a really interesting question. Personally, I have not researched bamboo after earthquakes, but one of my main collaborators, he's an engineer here in the UK, Sebastian Kaminski. He's done a lot of visits after earthquakes in Ecuador and he did a visit to Ecuador, and he's read a lot of the work of others have developed in other parts. There's a register in Costa Rica. And the issue comes again to durability. So bamboo, if it was kept well protected and there's no instance of rot, bamboo will be fine. Why will it be fine? Because generally speaking, the main damage, well, the source of the largest forces in earthquakes is mass. Okay, so the heavier a building, the larger the forces it needs to resist. Because bamboo buildings tend to be light, then the forces tend to be small. So bamboo buildings tend to perform very well in earthquakes, primarily because of that reason. The second reason is because they're strong. It's a strong material, so it can resist forces quite well. And certain forms of construction, like the one I showed you of composite bamboo shear walls, has a really good record of resisting well. If bamboo has been undergoing damage from water, from insects, then the story changes. The structures will not perform well, and they have been known to collapse. However, bamboo has one last trick. If they do collapse, they don't tend to kill as many people as concrete buildings. Why? Because they're lighter. So if it did collapse, the incidence of mortality is still lower because what falls on top of you is lighter.
I'm sorry, Dr. Julio. I promise that the time spent for your session is only until 10:15, but your presentation is very interesting. So Dr. Sabos, one of our guest speaker here, Dr. Sabos, would like to ask, is that okay for you? I hope that will work.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Hello, Professor Rangavarsham here. Is my voice audible?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
Yeah. Prof, if the perspective of civil engineer, they are more on soil, concrete materials, that's how they do the construction. But then if they want to subject the bamboo-based hybrid construction, so how they will understand the lignocellulosic aspect of bamboo?
No, I don't understand the question of how will they understand lignocellulosic.
Means like, for example, if it is a bamboo, like it is constituted with the lignin, cellulose, and hemicellulose, the strength of the material, everything. So the civil engineer has to be aware of the lignocellulosic constituent. Is that perspective is required?
Yeah,
because for the construction,
it just means you have to educate engineers in a different way. If you think of education of engineering in New Zealand or in California or in Canada, people are taught about timber as part of their curriculum. We have to change our curricula to incorporate lignocellulosic materials from the beginning. I mean, we do it in my university. We teach students, yes, of course we teach them about concrete. Of course we teach them about steel, but we also teach them about timber. So what we need to do is change the curriculum. But the problem with our curricula is that we are not changing it fast enough to address the challenges of decarbonization, particularly in civil engineering. It's a global problem because construction is one of the biggest causes of carbon emissions. And in countries like Indonesia or India or Colombia, it's even more significant because in countries like the UK, we have a very big component of our carbon footprint is cooling or heating, in our case, our houses. But in tropical climates, most people still don't cool their houses. Not yet, for now. So operational carbon, the energy used by cooling or heating buildings, is quite small. But the amount of carbon that's going to be released by building the infrastructure that we need, the housing that we need over the next 50 years is going to be very, very big. Because, rightly, in the countries like Indonesia, India, Colombia, people want better housing and more housing, and they want to urbanize and all these things. So we are walking into a problem. We're walking into a problem in that we're still teaching technologies that are carbon intensive, and not realizing that we're walking into this problem. So we need to change our curriculum. One of those things that we need to change is teaching, as you've rightly said, lignocellulosic materials, so that our students arrive well prepared for the future. Otherwise, they're going to have to learn in the job, which, as we know, is going to be harder. I mean, this has to change if we intend to address climate emergency. There might be new technologies in the future that, that there are ways to decarbonize steel. There are no ways currently mainstream to decarbonize concrete. So the only solution around concrete is just use less of it. And here is one way to do it. Use materials that have a smaller carbon footprint. Now, the issue with lignocellulosic materials, like trees, is that if we have the forests there that are ready to be exploited in a sustainable manner, great. But if we don't, what are we going to do? Well, let's plant something that grows quickly and that we could have sufficient forests to address the demand within 5, 10, 20 years. And that's where bamboo comes in to be great, because we can do that in that time. We wouldn't be able to do it with trees. Well, that's my opinion, at least. Did I answer your question? I can't hear you. Your microphone's off for some reason.
It's okay.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, your question your response is complimented. Yeah, it's fine. It's a perfect answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the response, Dr. Trujillo. I think this is the end of this session because we have actually, I believe if we keep asking, perhaps new questions will come up, but the time is limited. So I would like to thank you very much, Dr. Trujillo, for your contribution and participation in our event. We'd like to have perhaps in the future or even collaborate in this research field. So I would like to hand the activity over to our MC, please.
Thank you, Ms. Emma. Once again, I say thank you to Dr. Trujillo for the insightful and knowledgeful knowledge. Let's give an applause from here. So, by hearing the presentations of Dr. David Trujillo, we have a new knowledge, we have a new insight about what we should do, about what we have to do, and what do we have to consider about making bamboo a mainstream structural material. So, as any other materials, bamboo as a material needs to be maintained, needs to be conditions in order uh, to its survival. Like concrete, like cement, it is need maintained. So we have to use bamboo into a suitable conditions. And Dr. David Trujillo also conveyed to us about the strategic to make bamboo as a mainstream structural material. Once again, I say thank you. So, our next agenda for today is we go the rest because our agenda today is having an ending. So we need to postpone our agenda until tomorrow. We will meet again at 8 a.m. in the morning in the opening. So I would like to say have a good rest, have a good night, have a good sleep, have a good time. Recover your spirit, recover your energy, recover your focus for today because we will have a set of handful and insightful lecture also. So good afternoon, and because we don't see each other tonight, I say good night to you and have a good rest. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Thank you very much for the invitation.